So our first speaker will be Tyler Holck, and Tyler earned a Bachelor of Science in Animal Science from South Dakota State University, DVM and MS and MBA from Iowa State University. He has 35 years of veterinary careers experience working in many aspects in the industry. Currently, he provides technical and business consultancy for 4 ag-based companies, and on December 2020, he also began serving as the Senior Program Coordinator for U.S. Sheep. With Tyler, we also have Karen O'Hara, and they're going to team up on this presentation. Karen is a U.S. Assistant Director of Swine Health. Her team supports the implementation of disease programs and policy development. She oversees, once codified, then they will oversee the sheep program. She spent many years in the USDA Center for Epidemiology, working on ASF response. She has a DVM from Cornell University and Master in Public Health and PhD from University of California, Davis. Welcome.
All right, thank you. All right, can you hear me back there, Bill? Good, thumbs up. Well, thank you those that are here. We appreciate that this is the last session of the afternoon, and there's H5N1 across the hall. But obviously we can keep this informal, so if you have questions, put your hand up. Really happy to have Kathleen with us, because Kathleen and her team, that's been our goal all along, which I'll get to, of getting this program codified, and she's got the team that's going to be taking it from here. So what we're going to cover is, I'm going to cover some updates and kind of give you, I think, a sense of where we've been and also what we've done most recently. And then Kathleen will finish up with some comments about, well, what's this look like going forward, and how will this transition occur? So we need to take a step back in time to begin, and that goes all the way back to 2018. So 6 years ago, Dr. Roger Main, through a SHIC, Swine Health Information Center grant, did a case study, a 1-year case study on a program in the poultry side called National Poultry Improvement Plan. And his case study was, well, is it time for an NPIP-like program in swine? And his resounding conclusion after the end of that 1-year case study was, yes, now how do we do this? 3 benefits that Roger identified already in the report that he provided to the industry in 2019 are benefits that we're still driving what we've done in this pilot phase for U.S. SHIP. And those 3 are, can we reduce trade impacting disease-related market risks? And specifically, threat ASF and CSF, what can we do about that? So strengthen biosecurity, and set in place, if we were to get an incursion, how do we return to trade? How do we expedite that? Second one was, well, this NPIP program was actually built in poultry in 1935, and I'll get to that, to look at domestic diseases. So can this program help our industry in mitigating the impact of domestic diseases like PRRS, like PEDV, like mycoplasma? And we'll get to that as well. And then the final one was, using NPIP as a model, we create and empower an officially recognized forum. And that forum is industry, meaning producers and packers, state, meaning state animal health officials and pork execs, and federal, meaning the USDA, all working together. And we've now, just 3 weeks ago, finished our 4th House of Delegates, so I think we've got that rhythm of this forum in place. And so all 3 of those benefits that Roger envisioned 6 years ago are now starting to come to fruition. So just briefly on NPIP, or the National Poultry Improvement Plan, it was established in 1935. So our poultry colleagues have been ahead of the game there, but they established a program that is voluntary. Our program, U.S. SHIP, will also be voluntary, but it's got over 99% participation in the poultry industry, which has allowed them to do some pretty great things. And the culmination of it is certified supply chain, or they can create certified export plants. And in the face of this high-path AI that's been around the last 2.5 years, they've been, for the most part, been able to export poultry, even though that's a foreign animal disease. So NPIP has been very beneficial in their case on the foreign trade standpoint. And then the graph on here is Salmonella pylori, a disease that was a big, big problem in the poultry industry 100 years ago. And through the course of NPIP, over many years, they basically eliminated it. In addition to Salmonella pylori, you can see a long list of diseases that NPIP now covers. Our focus on US SHIP, just to remind everybody, today is ASF and CSF. But the opportunity is to follow the poultry model and look at, address, attack, potentially eliminate a lot more diseases. So what does a SHIP, back to our swine side, what does that look like? Well, we got a grant in late 2020 to start this pilot. And the first question was, is that something the industry even wants? And after about 1.5 2 years of working with stakeholders, having our first House of Delegates already in August of 2021, and repeating that in September of 2022, the answer was a resounding yes. So then there was additional funding and support, not only from the USDA, but from National Pork Board, to continue building out this pilot, which has been, this chart we put in place 3 years ago, with the goal that at the end of 2024, this would be a codified USDA program. Now, has it been smooth sailing? Is this what we would, a year ago, what I've said we'd be where we're at? Maybe not. But certain things have happened and we continue to push forward, and I'm happy to see Kathleen will expand on it. We are in a position, potentially by the end of this year, to have this handed over, codified to the USDA. Some of the things that we've been working on is, well, what exactly is part of the technical component or the standards and requirements that a producer or a packer would need to do in order to be certified, and I'll get to that. Other things that we've done is saying, well, once we've established some of those, well, how do we enroll producers? How do we certify producers? And then the last stage has been, okay, what does this look like to really formalize it and become a USDA program? So this again is borrowed, stolen, however you want to look at it, a model from NPIP. And I didn't want to do that. Is this? Yeah, there we go, a small pointer. All right, upper left, producers and packers. Those are the participants in US SHIP. It's sites, and it's site by site, that get enrolled and then certified. Those producers and packers come together once a year to a Congress or a House of Delegates, which we just did 3 weeks ago up here in Minnesota. We'll get to that. Together with their veterinarians, diagnosticians, state animal health officials, state pork associations, and when we have 18 USDA people this year. We had over 300 people that came together, and that Congress informs where are we going from here. And I'm going to talk through a few of the standards and resolutions that were passed at that meeting. It rolls then to the USDA, and now currently that's our pilot team in Iowa State, but eventually here soon it'll be the USDA. It'll be codified in the CFR 9, I believe. Kathleen's nodding her head. And then the final stage in this cycle is the official state agencies, and this is important to note because this program is not administered nationally. The standards, the requirements, those are all consistent across all the states, but individual states actually administer the program through what's called official state agencies, state by state. And so those components are what, on an annual basis, have created this flywheel that we've gone through the last 4 years and we foresee going forward into the future. How many states? Well, 36 states are participating in US SHIP today, which when we first set out in late 2020, we were targeting 10 to 15. All of the major swine states, I'm sure with the USDA's help and contacts, all of these states that are in white will become green here over the coming years. Enrollment is critical because if we don't have the numbers from the production, producers and packers, Well, we don't have a program. We've tried to keep that simple. Again, it goes through the state where that site is located. So if you have a producer that has a site in Minnesota, you work with Minnesota Board of Animal Health. If you have a producer that has sites both in Minnesota and Iowa, the sites that are in Minnesota go to Minnesota Board of Animal Health. The Iowa sites go to IDALS. It's fairly straightforward. There's a form that basically provides some demographic information. Fill out a biosecurity survey that's online. That's a one-time activity, and it helps to serve and support our biosecurity working groups. And then pursue certification, which again is provided by the state. And we expect and hope that then those producers and packers stay engaged in the program. Here's the good news, which is why we continue to say, well, we're making great progress. We have almost 12,000 sites enrolled in US SHIP. Those sites represent 75% of the breeding herd in the US and almost 2/3 of the growing herd in the US. So the folks that have heard about this program have definitely jumped in and engaged, and we've made great progress. What about the remaining 25 and 1/3? Well, that's going to be more and more challenging, and that's why we need more and more people talking about this program. Real quick, what's it take to enroll? I've already mentioned simply filling out the form that's got some demographic information, acknowledging that you understand, and completing a biosecurity survey. So 75% of the sites representing sows are already enrolled. But then to be certified, you need a valid client-patient relationship with a veterinarian, provide 30 days of animal movement electronically, complete a secure pork supply biosecurity site plan, comply with feed biosafety standards, which have been approved over the past few House of Delegates, ability to demonstrate compliance with testing requirements. Today, for ASF and CSF, there's no additional monitoring, but we're now requiring PINs to be included on your diagnostic submission, so any of the ASF, CSF active surveillance cases can be rolled into US SHIP. And then 5 days downtime for visitors that are coming back from an ASF or CSF positive country. So it's, for many of our progressive producers, it's not a high bar. It's just saying this is the bar. Now enroll and get certified. Working groups. So the technical components of this for ASF and CSF, and potentially down the road here for PEDV, well, we look at surveillance or sampling and testing. What are the best strategies? What are the most economical? What's the bang for the buck to make sure that our national herd is protected? Feed biosafety, a group from K-State is essentially leading that, and they've done some great work coming up with some of the basic standards, and they continue to look at some of the risks from imported feed ingredients. Market hall sanitation, maybe some of you heard presentation from Edison McGallis this morning. So they're working on what does this look like down the road? What do we need for truck wash? How can that help improve the health of our national herd? And then site biosecurity. That working group is basically aligned with the secure pork supply plan. As that plan comes up for review, there's a working group from US SHIP that will help to further expand, especially when it looks at risks of outdoor raised pigs with feral pigs. And then traceability. Traceability is probably the key topic, not only for US SHIP, but for our industry, with the passing of at Pork Farm for the mandatory traceability. That just expedited the work from US SHIP to be working on a repository or repositories that can handle movement data and do that in a way that's economical for the industry. One working group, which we had this past year, that's not technical related, but it's saying, well, how do we advance recruitment with the swine exhibition segment? And we had really good breakout session, and then the banquet at our House of Delegates was actually focused on swine exhibition, and a very nice job done by those presenters, suggesting that that is a really important segment, not only for the exposure that those pigs have, but actually the exposure those pigs have to people and young people coming into our industry. And so rather than shunning from a health standpoint, we shouldn't be doing show pigs, it's rather, no, we should, and now how do we bring them into this program as well? So I mentioned we had a House of Delegates just 3 weeks ago, right up here in Minnesota. Over 300 participants. We basically have delegates from the states that are participating. We go through a day and a half of sessions and breakout sessions, and then the final morning is a business meeting where we vote on proposed standards, which would become requirements for the certification, and then resolutions saying, well, what else should we be working on as we go forward? I'm not going to go through all of them. I want to give Kathleen some time here, but I did pick out a few that I think are relevant. The first one was a standard that was approved related to surveillance, and that is that all participants, certified participants in US SHIP, should put PIN number and state on their submissions. In reality, that's happening on most of the diagnostic submissions, but it's not happening on all. And premise ID numbers are going to be the connector for a lot of things. So that was a standard that passed. Another standard that passed was that the official state agencies, and those are the ones that administer the program, they are now required to enter the Prem ID and the state and the certification status of the sites that they are certifying. And that's to go into a database, which is a very simple database that essentially has, as I mentioned, the premise ID, ship status for ASF and CSF, and the state where that premise is located. That's all that goes into this verification database or certification database. Why is it that simple? Because we need that to be utilized, and it can be utilized by slaughter facilities to check, well, for these pigs that just came into my plant, I know their premise ID number, are they SHIP certified? Utilized by state animal health officials. We foresee down the road that this could be where a state animal health official says, you can bring pigs into my state if they're SHIP certified. And another example would be exhibitions, like I mentioned. Can you see down the road where the exhibitions, there's a lot and there's pigs moving a lot. They want to know, hey, are your pigs SHIP certified? So this is a database that lots of people will be able to use. How would they use it? They would have to have the PIN number, and then they can ask the database, is this PIN in the database, and if so, is it certified? So we're not really divulging any private information other than the PIN number, and that's going to be a driver. Last comment on that. We are already at the point where we've got one packing plant that has 100% of their procurement that is SHIP certified. And as this becomes a USDA codified, so getting to the implications of codification, well, the USDA trade folks will be able to start talking about this with our trade partners, and can we, before an incursion, start talking about this particular article in WOA, which says, you know, if you have a certified supply packing plant, and you can certify that all the production going into it, here's this provision that says you can continue to ship pork even though there's ASF in your country. Now, we're a long ways from implementing that, but we've got a really good start. We got one plant that's already 100%. We got several others that are looking to get there potentially by the end of this year. And if you, and working with your producers and packers, want us to visit with them, we're more than happy to continue to push this and emphasize this, because ultimately for ASF and CSF, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is how this actually works. Because if we get ASF and CSF short of this, all exports will stop, and as we all know in this room, it's a catastrophic economic situation. Can we have some relief valves where packing plants can continue to export? That would be the goal. Just a couple more slides, and then I'm going to hand it off to Kathleen. A resolution. So those first ones were standards. Those are going to be requirements in the program now. These last two slides are resolutions, meaning the delegate body voted and approved these resolutions for work to be done going forward. And the first one is to continue to work on pilot studies looking at what a repository of traceability of movement data will look like, and how do we get it that it actually works real time. We've had 2 pilots already in the 4 years with US Ship on traceability, and this last one this spring went fairly well, but they had instances where it took 40 days for the data to get in. And if we wait for an incursion and it takes 40 days to get the data, that's not going to work. So the delegate body said, keep working on that. And then the other one, which is interesting, was the House of Delegates request a subset of SAHOs to have a working group and define a path potentially enabling producers to utilize this repository that we were just talking about to, in place of, down the road a long ways, the swine health, production health plans or commuter herd agreements and or certificates of veterinary inspection or health certificates. So can we envision down the road where this repository of traceability of movement data can be utilized to help streamline for our SAHOs? So that's down the road. These are not requirements. These are resolutions. The last resolution I'll mention is we did pass 3 weeks ago where in addition to ASF and CSF, now we're going to start exploring what would it look like to have a certification for PEDV. There's an AASV task force that's in place that's been working since February, and this is building on that to say, well, if we want to start using it, SHIP for domestic disease, let's start with PEDV and see if we can't leverage our SHIP program like the poultry industry has leveraged NPIP over the many years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen.
All right, thank you, Tyler.
Yep.
All right, hi everyone, Kathleen O'Hara with Veterinary Services, Swine Health. So I'm here to just talk about the transition. So as Tyler said, a ton of great work has been done, led by our ISU pilot team, really building and shaping the vision and starting to really build up the implementation of the US SHIP program. And now we're kind of working into the formalization stage of what this looks like. And I think one of the first stories of success in this transition phase is that in this fiscal year, so fiscal year 2024, U.S. Congress directed USDA to allocate $1 million out of our swine line budget for for the US SHIP program. And I think that that's a really strong reflection of the strong work that our pilot team has done, that the industry has done, showing engagement, showing that this program has the interest, has the engagement to be successful to the point that we have congressional buy-in to say, we see that the industry is engaged, that there is a strong potential positive impact for our industry, for the US, for this program. So we're getting the resources, not in extra money, but literally in our congressional funds that are spent each year. So we'll see what happens with this next year's coming budget, but already, Congress is recognizing the success of this. We're continuing to work with our transition plan now. So we've already had an initial transition meeting with ISU. The fact that even Tyler, I was a late addition to this meeting, and as soon as Tyler heard that I was coming, he made sure that I was a part of this conversation. So I think that that really reflects the partnership that's already in place between ISU and USDA, and we're going to continue to lean on that through this transition, having ISU really help us stand up, the team and transfer of knowledge to make this a success as we formalize the process, and continuing to lean on our industry representatives to be a part of that as well. We are currently in the process and actually only weeks away from announcing the USDA Senior Coordinator position, who will join the swine health staff. And again, just a acknowledgement that we have the funding approved to expand the team to support this program, make it a reality, mirroring that NPIP model and recognizing the amount of work and formalizing permanently positions that can help support the ongoing efforts to do this program. So things that are on the road in terms of rulemaking process. So the rulemaking process has 2 stages where we submit and publish a proposed rule that then goes out to the public for comment. And so this is coming any day. The proposed US SHIP rule will come out to the public for comment. And this is where you all can have a strong impact engaging with that, because To become a rule, it's two-stage. It goes out proposed, rule, and there's a comment period. That's your moment to say, we're interested in this. We think it's going to have an impact. We think this is something that's important. Because to get to a stage where we're going to then publish a final rule for comment, we need to see that there's interest and engagement, that there's not major flags about the implementation of this program. So there's a critical stage here between moving from a proposed to a final rule where the ongoing engagement from the industry, from our industry representatives, from our state partners in endorsing the value of this program is an ongoing message that we need to continue to repeat up towards our leadership and our congressional leadership to make this formal. So this is coming any day. We will make sure that people know as soon as it goes out, and there'll be a 60-day public comment period coming after that. Once US SHIP is a codified program, the current GCC committee will move into a federal advisory committee status. So that is just a formal advisory committee that basically says that committee's job is to bring the ideas from the industry, from the states, from the stakeholders of this program to the government, to USDA, and say this is what we need from the program. So they'll be your conduit to formally putting in requests about what we need this program to do for the industry moving forward. So I did want to introduce you to the team behind this, because while we're very excited to be hiring a senior coordinator, the reality is we already have a team in place who's been working on this for years. So, oops, I did the same thing that you did, Tyler. Oh gosh, help.
No problem.
Looking for the button on a pointer. The middle button. Thank you, Tyler. All right, so in August, we were fortunate to be invited and hosted for a tour of Tar Heel. So for you, some of you may recognize that statue in the middle. So for a long time, Dr. Lisa Rochette here on the left was formerly in my position as the Assistant Director for Swine Health. She's actually currently stepped up into the Director role for our Commodity Health Center, but she'll remain a strong leader in this program for us, and especially through the rulemaking process. Cody Egnor and Lydia Carpenter are already serving as the program managers for all of the cooperative agreements with each of the 36 individual states who are currently participating in the program. So they interact directly with our official state agencies, implementing the cooperative agreements that provide funding to the states for the activities that the states need to help implement this program, hiring of personnel, recruitment, engagement with this program. Additional work in the background is Cody is also working on helping us stand up that federal advisory committee and understanding the processes for how that looks. So work in the background that people may not see, but will be really critical as we get into our formal processes. Vienna Brown from Wildlife Services actually was just doing a detail with us, and she just helped us complete a study where we're looking at the current work plans from our official state agencies and asking and defining which are of the specific efforts that our states are currently undertaking have been most bang for buck in terms of successful engagement, enrolling people in the program, finding success communicating with the stakeholders and translating that into engagement with the program. Kelly Castellano is our program analyst, so she's been helping with some of the administrative side of data management and communications. Also on detail, not in this photo, Steve just also helped us with a project working with Leticia Linares on helping USDA be prepared to host next year's House of Delegates meeting. So while we're really, again, excited about our US SHIP coordinator, there's an entire team behind this and a growing team where I've been empowered and given the funds to hire additional permanent staff who will continue to support this program. So next steps, as Tyler alluded to, the PEDV certification is something that came up in the House of Delegates. Again, this PEDV certification, the engagement of the swine exhibition segment, I want to really highlight, these are initiatives that came from the industry side. These are things that the industry wants to see and wants to ask about what this program can do. And I want to make sure that everyone here hears that message, that as this program comes into a USDA formal codified program, this program USDA will kind of provide the administrative framework, but this program will continue to be industry-driven in terms of the ideas and initiatives and what the program implements. So, like Tyler emphasized, the ongoing and continued engagement, support, being certified, being enrolled is a part of it, engaging in the discussions, engaging in the working groups, engaging in the House of Delegates, will continue to be a big part of the future of what this program looks like. Moving forward, how it's shaped. Are we addressing additional diseases? Are we pulling in all of the right stakeholders? Have we addressed the full industry? So continuing engagement will be critical. So as USDA is codified, again, just really asking everyone to continue to stay engaged, recognize that this program will really help our state animal health officials leverage the program as they're thinking about bringing up the standard of how easy it is to check biosecurity certifications, potentially traceability, data management systems. These are tools that can be strengthened, brought up, additional funding, and just recognizing that the quality of the industry can be brought up through this program. And all of that will be part of the message that as this is codified, that USDA trade staff can start taking out to our partners, that being a part of US SHIP is bringing up the quality of the entire industry for our global market. And that can be part of our message. Similar to the National Poultry Improvement Plan, NPIP, what NPIP means to the rest of the world is that our trading partners have agreed, recognize that the high level of quality, the high level of testing, confidence in the status of that industry keeps markets open. We now are in year 3 of HPAI outbreaks and markets are open. And that's what US SHIP can mean to this industry if we stay engaged and if we can translate consistent engagement, drive by the industry, and what that means for the overall trust and confidence in our industry to our trade partners. So with that, just want to thank, again, ISU and the pilot team so much for their engagement with this program. Look forward to the transition and their support in that and you all's ongoing engagement from the industry.